Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Glad to have you here. Exciting week. It's an exciting week for a lot of reasons. One of the best reasons to me right now it's exciting is spoke to one of my clients yesterday who went back to work. His state has allowed him to go back to work. And he sent me this message and he was on the news and it, talking about, this is going to be one of this. I mean, I want to hear this for a second. The best maze in the history of his company, the best maze in the history of his company. And that's coming out of COVID, right? So you might be listening to this at a different time of year. And by the way, don't turn off if this is a different time of year. I want you to hear what I have to say today. It's really important. And so, I spoke to him or he texted me yesterday. This guy's just explosive. He's excited. He's doing really well. And now the question is why, right? I think that when one of the greatest things you can do in life is study both successes and failures. Right? There's lots of failures, right? Case studies, business case studies written on people who have not succeeded. And there's something to learn from that. And there's also something to learn from successes. Like, how did organizations become great? And how did organizations do well? And I think this is a great example of how do organizations do well. And this last few weeks, I've been talking about the strategy of how do you come out of COVID and how do you become successful and how do you do this. And here's this guy who's done exactly what I told him to do. And it's not to pat myself on the back by any means. It's to tell you, like, you always want to see proof, right, in the marketplace that what you're saying is to do. Now, I know what I'm doing, so I knew that was going to be the result. But however, you still want to see the examples in the marketplace. And so it's really cool to watch. Now, this is a guy who is now, slam packed. And I think it's very important to know that he was on the news. Now, why is that so relevant? Why is that so relevant? It's so relevant because of the fact that, how many people in the news right now want to hear from you? Do you know how many people right now want to hear from people of authority and influence? And now's, especially in the dental community, what a great story. I mean, right now, the news media is looking for stories, right? They're looking for stories that are different. And the idea of dental, companies going back to work is different. It's about health. It's about COVID. It kind of brings into authority. It brings into all the different elements that they're looking for right now. So, what does that have to do with different times of the year? Okay, Eric. So he did this. Now, if you go back and listen to the last few podcasts, I told you exactly what to do. Go back and do it, and stay along the lines of where I've been coaching to do. But I want you to hear this. It's the difference between, as I've said before, scarcity and abundance. That's what I want you to get out of this. The idea of scarcity and abundance is what I want you to get out of this situation. Is that here's a doctor who no doubt was scared when all this went down. And by the way, we all, and even if you're not a dentist listening to this, you can relate. We all have those times in life where we're scared, where we're uncertain and we're not sure what's going to happen in the future. And the natural reaction, by the way, when you're scared and uncertain is to contract, to hoard resources, to pull back mentally, and every other way, financially. And so I talk about this idea of abundance. And this is an example of abundance in play. And if you really want dental wealth, and if you want wealth, and by the way, wealth, and to win at wealth, there's a lot of ways to win at wealth. It's winning mentally, it's winning financially, and winning in your relationships, and winning at stress, and so many other ways to win. And I would say if you had a life where you had less stress, right, in your life, that's a form of wealth, right? And so there's a lot of ways we can become wealthy. But in this case, it's going to turn financial. Now, it'll reduce stress and those types of things too, but I want you to hear me on this. Like, he's going to now, because he had abundance mindset, be able to financially put himself, I will argue, in a better position than he would have had COVID-19 not happened. Let me hear that again. A better financial position. a better financial position. Why? Because opportunity presented itself in the marketplace. He's now on the news. He's talking to all these people. He's an authority in the marketplace. He trained his team. We had taught him the language to train. And so he went back and started training his team on how to come out of this and how to be successful in this and what are the things to say and what are the things not to say and how to make sure that patients are listening to your messaging and how to communicate with current patients. This is a time to over-communicate. And so he over-communicated with the marketplace. He invested into marketing. He invested into his team. He got them trained up. Instead of worrying about resources being scared, he said, how can I find this as a time of opportunity and innovation? How many times do we find that life gives us the ability for opportunity and innovation, but we don't take advantage of it? This is a time of opportunity and innovation. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about that as regards to, that's why I said it doesn't matter when you're listening to this. In recession, and this was rapid recession, there are more times of opportunity. There are certainly more times of opportunity. Because of the fact that everything's on sale, right? But also understand that there's also always the ability to have an abundance mindset, to be investing and to be investing in yourself and to be investing in your growth and investing in your practice and investing in your team and investing in your resources. And the people that really move the needle in life, the millionaires and the billionaires, they understand abundance. They understand the mindset of abundance. So if you're listening to this right now, you know, I've been echoing these comments, but here it is, this doctor sending me this thing of saying, my gosh, Eric, I did exactly what you told me to do. And holy moly, this is amazing. This is a time for economic prosperity and every type of prosperity you can think of. If you get out of a scarcity mindset and you focus on growing yourself, your business, I would be reaching out to the press. Absolutely. What an amazing time. But look, even if this isn't COVID-19, reach out to the press, get on the news. Why not? You're an authority in the marketplace. Okay, well, Eric, you said to communicate and over-communicate with our patients. Why are you not over-communicating with them all the time? Maybe you weren't communicating with them, but maybe you should have been. Maybe your attention rate would have been higher had you been communicating. What if you communicate with them all the time, whether it be through email, text? Nowadays, see, this whole text messaging thing, by the way, I have to tell you, where sometimes we allow technology to destroy experience. So this text messaging thing started happening. And so everyone's like, well, I'll just text all my patients and see they can confirm right there on their phone, which sounded really great because it's easier than having somebody call them every day, right? And then you could just text them and they could confirm or not. The problem is somewhere in there, we lost relationships, right? We lost the communication. And what a great time to communicate. And I'm not saying you don't text people. I'm not saying you don't utilize technology, but I am saying is why don't you be communicating with people all the time? What if you had an organization that was constantly communicating with your patients and constantly communicating with the market? See, that's an abundance mindset. Now, the first thing you'll know that a scarcity mindset kicked in if the first thing you said to yourself was, hey, what's that going to cost? And I say that because I go, no, what's the return? It goes back to the old adage that I've used on here before, but it's the CFO says, right? If we train them and they leave, what will that cost? And the CEO says, what if we don't and they stay? That's the difference between scarcity and abundance. That saying right there is the difference between scarcity and abundance. The CFO worries about what it costs. The CEO says, what will we gain? What is the abundance? So are you in this moment listening to this podcast in an abundance mindset? And if you're not, what do you have to do to get yourself there? What is it that I need to be doing? So we would be over communicating all the time. We'd be marking and pouring into an amazing message. So we're overly communicating all the time. We're investing in our own acumen, our own growth. Sometimes you couldn't give away success. Like you literally, there's people that you could not give away success to. because there's such a scarcity mindset. Even if you give it to them, they'll be apprehensive to take advantage of it. So I tell you this message today on this podcast to say, like, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what people are doing. But I also know that there's, and I've said it on this podcast, that there's going to be a disproportionate amount of people, that people are going to come out of this, but there's going to be two camps, and they're not going to be proportionate. One camp is going to be slow to get back to work, slow to see patients, slow to move, and slow to expand. And they'll be talking about COVID-19 for 10 years from now. And by the way, they will be talking about this 10 years from now. I promise you, here's what I'm going to hear. I promise you. I was doing well until. No, see, winter was always coming. So it's a mistake to say I was doing well until COVID happened. If it wasn't for COVID, I would be doing well. But see, that's the way life goes. Well, if it wasn't for the 2008 recession, if it wasn't for my divorce, if it wasn't for the stock market crash, if it wasn't for my health going bad, well, that's what happens. What do they say? Shit happens, right? That's why they say it. It happens. Hey, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, if no one else has told you, hey, we're going to come out of this winter, and I think it's going to be a short-lived winter, but let me just tell you again, winter's coming. Now it might be a financial winter, an emotional winter, a health winter, but it's coming. And so to say, hey, look, Eric, I was doing well and I was going to do well if it wasn't for that is a complete mistake. No, it was always coming. Winter was always coming. I've been saying it. Matter of fact, I've got notes, proof, like I've got video of me on stage over the last 3 years saying, hey guys, winter's coming, winter's coming. Now, you didn't know that it was going to look like this, but hell, if you knew what winter was coming, you would probably have prevented it different or made some different decisions. I don't have a crystal ball and you don't either, right? So we go back and look at this. We go, hey, let's be realistic. Winter's coming again. But let's stay on the positive side and be optimistic. Hey, spring's coming too. And here's what we know. There's about to be a dramatic time for opportunity. Look, you can plant in the spring or you can bake in the winter. Winter's coming again. So let's plant. Spring's coming. So here's the message I want to get across in this podcast today. If you haven't taken my advice so far, I want you to get highly involved and over-communicate with your patients. I want you to over-communicate with your team. I want you to over-communicate with the marketplace. I want you to put money in marketing. I want you to expand in every single way possible. I want you to embrace the marketplace like you never have before. I know the first thing is, what does it cost? I want you to focus on the return. How much money will I make if I do that? What's the benefit to my organization? What's the benefit to my team? I want you to focus on that, because you'd spend an unlimited amount of money, I hope, as long as the return's there. So quantify the return. Focus on the return, not the cost, not the expense. Don't ask your accountant. They're going to focus on your expenses. Focus on how to grow. And by the way, grow in yourself, invest in yourself, and invest in your own life and your opportunities and the ways to grow. So now's the time to get ready. If you haven't heeded the message yet, there's so many dentists that are going to be still sleeping for the next month. It's opportunity in the marketplace, guys. It might be a practice for a sale. It might be a book of business, a book of patients. It might be real estate. It might be just the ability for you to take advantage of your own practice's growth potential. Take advantage of it now. That's where you need to be right now. It's mentally where you need to be. So take advantage of this time. If you need any help, listen, reach out to Tower Leadership. I'd be more than happy to walk you through this. We've worked with, we're working right now with clients all over the country, in every, different time zone, every area. And we know the complex situations you're going through. And so we can coach you through that, And it's not a pitch for Tower Leadership. Whether you join Tower Leadership or not, this Dental Wealth podcast is free. But some of you that know you need to take some more action, whether it's us or somebody else, I think you need to make sure you're taking the action necessary to get these pieces in place, because it might cost you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars, and if not millions of dollars over a period of time. You're more focused on the fact that you got, 6 figures in PPP loan that's being forgiven, and focused on that versus focused on the $500,000 business you're going to lose if you don't prepare. So focus on the right things. You get what you measure. You get what you measure. Speaking of measuring, I said, make sure you tune in this podcast every week. Look, this podcast is relevant no matter where you're at, no matter whether you're a dentist or not. I want you to stay tuned to this podcast. So make sure you're hitting subscribe. It's an easy thing to do. Just hit subscribe. You're in it, right? So then you get the notifications every single time. Look, it's an easy discipline. That's what I'm talking about, taking action. The easiest form of taking action is to hit a button, subscribe. While you're driving the car, you can listen to this in. I keep these podcasts about 10, 20 minutes. So you can do this on the ride in. Share it. Call friends. Hey, look, there's something I think we should talk about together. Form a little study group. Get together 3-4 you guys. Get the podcast, listen to it, and talk about the concepts together. Share this information and talk about what the challenges are, kind of applying some of it. You'd be surprised what 3 or 4 minds can do, talking about these concepts and how to apply them to your business. So take action. Forward to a friend, bring them involved, subscribe. Hey, glad to have you this week. Hey, keep your head up. You guys have this. I'm telling you, you have it. But you got to stay focused. We're not out of the woods yet, but if you take advantage of the opportunity, you're going to see there's a lot of potential. Thanks for tuning in, guys.